Mayor Giuliani, thank you for taking the time tonight. I know that you just came from meeting with the families of the two assassinated officers. How was that meeting?
Well, it was very emotional. You know, it's been some time since I was mayor, and I lost so many police officers and firefighters. Not even before September 11, about 50, and then September 11, unbearable numbers. It was hard to, I mean, it's hard. It's very, very hard because you really don't know what to say to really comfort them. But it is remarkable what wonderful men both these men were, Officer Ramos and Officer Liu. These two officers represent what the New York City Police Department is all about. They remind me of my uncles. I had 4 of them that were police officers. They love being police officers. Officer Liu joined after September 11 because he was affected by September 11. This police department, this New York Police Department, is not an all-white police department. In fact, it's not even majority white police department, I think. This is a very, very diverse police department, Hispanic and Chinese, in this particular case, Americans. So this kind of thing that's been suggested about racism within the New York City Police Department, it's really an outrageous lie.
This issue about racism in the nation's biggest police department, and indeed in police departments around the country. There was a couple of questions I wanted to ask you about that.
Sure, absolutely.
A ProPublica analysis actually was done on the issue of whether young black males were more likely to be killed by police in this country. They looked at federal data from 2010 through 2012, because there aren't federal statistics on this particular issue. They found a 21 times more likely chance that a young black man would be killed by a police officer than a young white man. That's a pretty stunning statistic, and it argues against what you just said.
No, it doesn't. Statistics don't tell you anything. We'd have to know what those 21 people were doing. By what percentage do black young men commit violent crimes compared to white? Isn't it like 5, 6, 7 to 1?
But this is 21 to 1.
Well, 5, 6, 7 to 1 means that there can be an awful lot of concentration and a lot more interreactions between the police and the black community than between the police and the white community. So you just can't look at a statistic like that. In the case of New York City, for example, 70 to 75% of the murders are committed by blacks. That's a statistic. That's not racism. That's a fact. So you would expect, if that's the case, if it's 70 to 75%, that the overwhelming majority of interreactions dealing with violent crime are going to be with blacks, unfortunately.
Right,
I
but
wish
I mean,
it were different.
You can play. I mean, I see your point, but I mean, if you are going to play statistics that way, you're looking at 75%.
Well, you're the one who brought up
21 to 1. No, I know, but I mean, I'm saying if 75% of the crime is committed by blacks, as you're saying, but again, 21 to 1. I'm just saying that's still not in balance with the crime rate.
Well, but you'd have to know what those 21. You'd have to know what you're talking about, not just the numbers. You'd have to know what kind of situations. What kind of situations you're talking about? What kind of crimes were involved? What kind of provocation took place? Did one group more likely surrender and the other group not? I mean, in the case of both Mr. Garner and Mr. Brown, they were committing crimes. I mean, this is not a situation in which, I mean, the two officers are two innocent men who were killed. These two men were committing crimes. Now, okay, in the case of Mr. Garner, he was committing a relatively minor crime.
Correct.
But the reality is, if you're speeding and you're pulled over and the police officer asks you for your license and registration, and you say, you know, no, you've just taken a relatively minor situation and made it into a really major one, because the cop is going to pull you out of the car and anything can happen. Now, so before you analyze that, you've got to know, how are people behaving, how are they acting, how are they interreacting, and what kind of danger are the police officers in. I have found in New York City that in the overwhelming majority of cases, the police officers are justified in what they're doing. The exception is when they do something wrong, and when they do, they go to prison. This is a police department that, in the overwhelming majority of cases, when a death takes place, it's a justifiable situation where the police officer was in fear for his life.